Recording. Okay, we're on. We're live, ladies. Welcome to the Holistic Equine Academy of Lymphedema. I'm Teresa Mueller. I am honored to have both of these ladies because I've got questions for you, Jeannie. You're gonna
Okay.
be one of you're gonna help put this together for so many people. Because it's going to go out, it's going to be on replay because so many people can't make it. But anyway, the purpose of this is really to help educate the equine community and particularly the professionals to understand what is this market. It's hidden and it's right in front of our eyes. So what I decided to do is put together a series, 7 series. This is the first one. You have to understand the market because if you don't understand the market, you're not going to understand your business. So like most big retailers, like CVS or Walgreens or Walmart, they do their homework first before they put a store in. Right? They do the demographics, they do all those kinds of things. But we need to do the same thing for us. So hopefully this is going to be okay, Christina. I've got another one. Wonderful. Wunderbar. All right, Christina, hello. I don't know if she hears me. Christina, hello.
Hi.
Hi, we just started your perfect timing.
Sorry, I'm in the car, so I'm going to be listening.
Okay, I don't care. That's perfect. So anyway, the reason that I did this is because when I got started, when I came back from Germany after being trained, I said, oh, there's got to be a lot of information about this market, how big it is, the segments of it. I looked everywhere, and guess what? There was none. I said, you've got to be kidding. And so I did what I thought I had to do. You know what that was? Go find it. And so
Mhm.
that's how this got started. So the most important thing I think for practitioners is to understand our market. What are we dealing with? What are the costs? And I'm going to go over this. We also have the free lymphatic series, which is on microcast. Jeannie, I think you took that.
Mhm.
We're gonna it's actually taking some of the information out and putting this into our presentation tonight. So we got about 30 minutes to do. So I want to get started on it. So that's how this really got started because I believe as a practitioner, you need to know how big this market is. If you don't know it is, you don't know your potential. And it's simple as that. So we're going to have some fun tonight and I'm going to start. So I love this quote by Einstein. Who's going to argue with him? Right? Not me. Not
Mhm.
this pea brain. Imagination is more important than knowledge because knowledge is limited, and we're going to talk about those limitations. And imagination encircles the world. And let me tell you what happened was I decided that I needed some information. So I started this be part of the research. I had not a clue what I was doing. I put the questions up because my specialty is chronic progressive lymphedema and cellulitis. All right. And I threw it out there. This is nothing. The little dots on here, this is nothing. I got them from Australia, Turkey, Pakistan, Hong Kong, all over the world. And people are looking for answers. So that said to me, we got a problem. If these people from all over the world are contacting me, look, and Ghana was another one we got this past year. And it says, turn up the volume. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
All right. I want to make sure you can hear me because it keeps going down. I don't know why. So that's how it all got started. So I put this be part of the research. I do not look for people. People look for me because they're looking for answers. And that's what I want as a practitioner coming to you because there's nowhere else to go. So here's a little quiz. Number one, what percentage of horses experience chronic swelling that doesn't go away? Anybody want to take a stab?
See?
C. I would say C.
See? Well, let me tell you, it's 8 to 10%. Let me go this. I think it is, I think the answer is really 20 to 30. But let me tell you why I said 8 to 10. Because you got to remember, these are people who contacted me. So it's a very niche market in a very big place, you know? So the people that contacted me have problems with chronic progressive lymphedema and cellulitis. However, here's the caveat. 100% of the horses are exposed to have the potential to have lymphatic problems. Why? Because they have a lymphatic system. So if you got a system, you got a potential there of something happening and breaking down. So this is really the niche market of the chronic progressive and cellulitis market is 8 to 10. As we go through this presentation, I really think it's between 20 and 30%. I'm just telling you. Because Jeannie, you were a classic example. You want to tell them what happened to Skibo?
Uh, my horse Skibo had a swollen parotid gland, and we couldn't figure out if it was infectious or I don't know. I think the vet thought it was infectious since it was only on one side. Um, and she didn't think it was, like um I can't remember what there was the other thing that it could be. Anyway, um I we've we didn't treat him for the infection, so I wanted to find ways to reduce the swelling of and and then I found Teresa. Wasn't quite sure what it was, you know, and it didn't seem infectious because it wasn't hot. He didn't have he didn't have a temperature, and it didn't bother him a lot. So,
But here's the thing. We're going to get into this a little bit, but I do believe he had an infection that you couldn't detect. That
hmm
happens. And I think that's what destroyed the lymphatic tissue, which caused the swelling that he has. But we'll get into that at another time. Anybody else have again any comments? You have anyone experience or see horses with chronic swelling? Donna? Uh-oh.
I'm trying to think. I think my father had an older horse that had swelling. No, actually, I think it was at a barn that I rode at that there was an older horse that had like a chronic fetlock.
Okay. That would
But
definitely qualify.
I don't know the details of it.
Yeah. Okay. Christina, you want to add anything?
she's muted.
I know.
Driving.
I know. Christina can add something to this. Christina, can you hear me? No. We'll go on. All right. So I would tell you, I think, and the reason I say this, we're going to get into a photo later on that you're going to see various types of lymphatic swelling or congestion that is not chronic progressive lymphedema and it is not cellulitis. So when you start adding that number in, this becomes a little bit bigger. All right. So that's the answer. So here is what it's based on. It's based on we got 9 million, this is an estimate, horses in the United States. If that's 8 to 10, we're looking at 720 to 900,000 horses that are impacted, and nobody knows. That's crazy when you start thinking about that. So so as you roll down, when you peel back the onion, because we've had a lot of different types of swelling coming into heel. So this would make a lot of sense, a lot more sense than you really think. So, what is the estimated financial cost to an owner over 3 to 5 years when managing a chronic swelling such as chronic progressive lymphedema or cellulitis? Anybody know? Anybody want to take a guess?
B.
B, yes.
B.
It is it nickel and dimes owners to death. Because what happens is the first initial emergency call runs be 1,200 to 1,500, depending on what part of the country you're living in. Remember, this is chronic, so it's not going away. And especially if it's cellulitis, you're going to have repeat incidences over and over again. And they are not wellness checks, they're always emergency calls because there's a fever involved, and that is life threatening. And the longer somebody waits for the vet to get there and administer what they have to administer, more damage is being done that cannot be recuperated. So, the average, and it nickels and dimes them every year. So you go like from 1,500 to 1,800 one year, and then it accumulates. So in 3 to 5 years, you're well over the $15,000. And I helped one woman who was in this category for $300, and that's what she spent, was between $10,000 and $15,000. I hear it all the time. And the sad part was, one year I got a call from a lady that she spent $50,000. She had to
Jeez.
take a home equity loan out.
Oh my
You know
God.
you want to hear the sad part of it? Horse still had a swollen leg. He was a thoroughbred. That was number two against him. He had reoccurring cellulitis. And here was the sad part. She was driving distance. I could have been there in 75 minutes. And I could have helped her with that horse for under $2,000. When I told her that, what was she going to go back and tell her husband? Oh, I got this lady, and she says she can fix the horse for $2,000 plus just my wraps that I have to do, and she'll teach me how to do it. What do you think her husband's going to tell her? We just spent $50,000 with the top vets. They couldn't fix this horse, so you're going to get an equine massage therapist to come out here and fix it. Think about that. Do you think that is plausible to the husband? No. You're not going to want to go back to your husband and tell him, I just spent $50,000 and now I have to take a home equity loan out. She hung up on me. I could have helped this. She was crying so hard. I think she got to the point where she was probably thinking of euthanizing him and letting it go. She was just so upset because I can't believe that. I said, folks, believe it. And it was so sad because she wasn't in Kentucky. She wasn't in California. She was in my own backyard. So now, you know what they say about inquiring minds? I like this quote. You know what they say about inquiring minds? Ladies, do you know?
Um,
It does
no.
have a need to know.
No, I don't even know if the National Enquirer, if you can buy it, but that was their tagline.
Ah,
Inquiring minds have a need to know. I don't know if you remember that. It was some British guy owned I don't even know if you can buy the National Enquirer. I have no idea, but I don't buy that stuff, so I wouldn't know. But I've seen it many times on the newsstands here in New York. But anyway, inquiring minds need to know. So I wanted to know what percentage of the horses experience chronic swelling that doesn't go away. I think I screwed this one up. Oh, that would be the 8%, but I'm going to show you something more definitive. Okay. Let me see what I got here. Oh, we went through that. Okay. I'm losing my train of thought here. All right. It's not the numbers that are interesting. It's what they tell us about the lives behind them. I love this. If that isn't the ultimate truth. So this is where this number comes from. Basically, I mentioned before, we're at 1,200 to 1,500 for the first EQ because that's an emergency. They are always an emergency. And you will always pay more because now the vet's got to take somebody off their list and get to you ASAP if it's an emergency. Most of these horses, whether it's chronic progressive lymphedema or cellulitis, it will reoccur over and over again. And as time goes on, the flare-ups start to multiply and it gets longer and more. Um, there's more frustration because it takes longer for them to recuperate. So within the average year, they could easily spend $10,000 and there is no resolution. That's sad. People spending that kind of money and not having answers to their questions. Okay, let's see what we got here. We got that. That doesn't go away. We got that. This is the cost. This is how we estimated it. Now, this one here, which breeds appear to have a predisposition to chronic progressive lymphedema? Who wants to take a gander at that one?
I will.
See.
What was that?
Christina?
Oh, Christina?
Hi. I think is it the draft crosses or
Yeah,
the draft horses?
this is very, very interesting. They classify chronic progressively lymphedema designated for draft and draft crosses because they believe they have a genetic component in there that's causing it. They haven't found it yet, but it's very, very predominant in draft crosses. And they labeled it as chronic progressive lymphedema. But let me tell you, any this is Teresa's opinion. I got to clarify that. And because what they have with the draft horses, they manifest it a little bit different. They have nodules. They have the skin becomes very fibrosis. It does in the horses that have cellulitis as well. But it's the nodules that are there, and some of the other the loss of hair and so on. So they have classified chronic progressive lymphedema for draft and draft horses only. However, warm bloods, quarter horses, any horse that has chronic swelling. Chronic means that it's not going away. So chronic progressive lymphedema means it's chronic, it is progressive, and it is talking about the lymph fluid. But I don't know, it was the University of Davis, whoever designated chronic progressive lymphedema for draft and draft horses only. So if a quarter horse comes down with a swollen leg, then it could be, lymphedema. All right. You can't say it's chronic progressive lymphedema. It's a legal issue within the industry. So I just say chronic swelling. So chronic swelling means it could happen to any horse and it's progressive and it doesn't go away. Does that make sense to you folks?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So now let's take a look at this. The numbers are really staggering here. When I did be part of the research, this is what it is. It was the majority of them were all drafts. They were drafts. They were like 54% of them were drafts. The other percentage was large breeds. Now, this is what they told us in Germany. Any large animal, and even an oversized animal that wasn't genetically to be big, okay, they have a tendency to have lymphatic disorders. And they think it is because the way we breed, the body from an evolutionary, this is their theory. I don't know if it's correct or not. I'm just sharing you what they shared with me. That the larger the animal, the more likely they're going to have the potential for lymphatic issues. It is either because of the breeding or the size or the lymphatic system stays the size that it was maybe 50,000 years ago. And now the horse, the horse is not small anymore. You got something 18 hands. And that's not what they were built to do. So what you see, and you see it in the dogs too, the larger breed dogs, shepherds, Great Danes, larger breed dogs will be more prone to lymphatic disorders. I see a lot in the neck for some reason. I don't know statistically if that's correct, but I see a lot. I've heard a lot of the dogs have a lot of issues in the neck. They can have it anywhere. So it's just not the large breed for the warm bloods and the thoroughbreds. but they appeared, everyone who answers my survey that owns a thoroughbred, I would tell you almost 100% have cellulitis. So if you live in thoroughbred country, you hear that, Donna?
Yeah.
Yeah, the cellulitis is a concern. So if that horse has a swollen fetlock, that is really what we're looking at because you got 5 lanes of lymphatic vessels going into 3 down by the fetlock going into the hoof. And that is why you predominantly see a lot of swelling in the pastern fetlock area because that's where most of the damage is done. So I was really interested when you said Kentucky. How many thoroughbreds did you see with cellulitis? Because that is the number one breed I get on this survey when it comes to cellulitis, hands down. The next one are the warm bloods. That's
I have a
them.
question. Do you think part of it also is the way we keep our horses?
Oh, absolutely. I
You
think I
know,
think
I mean, it used to be probably beneficial for them to have that, when they're walking 17 hours a day and hardly
sure.
eating whatever scrub that they get. And then now they're just standing in a
That's a
stall.
problem. Absolutely. That is called that's resting pressure and working pressure.
Hmm.
Humans have good resting pressure. In other words, because you know what? We have a lot of muscles in our legs. Remember, the horse has tendons.
Yeah.
The horse has tendons, and there's not a lot of venous return in the horse's leg. Think about that. So, and that is why I think, opinion again, is that when they come down with a bone infection, that's why it's so detrimental because they do not have a lot of venous return. The muscle is way up. The digital extensors and the digital tendon, I mean muscles are high up, and the most of the legs is connective tissue. It's the tendons and the ligaments. So that is a problem. Now, what was really fascinating by me doing this survey, the other part of this is the majority of the other category, almost 8% of them are quarter horses. Quarter horses have a problem. I don't
Hmm.
know what it is. So if you live in quarter horse country, this is something to look at. A lot of swollen sheaths, a lot of down by the fetlock. These horses have a lot of swelling issues. So when you start looking at your market as a professional, do I live in the dressage hunter jumper where you're going to have a lot of warm bloods, trochaners, et cetera, et cetera? Or do I live in Texas where we have a lot of quarter horses? Or do I live up in Vermont or maybe Wisconsin where there's a lot of drafts? So some of this market segmentation is all based on where you live. So that's another indication on how to assess your market. So you got the draft horses here, and then you have the next one is the warm bloods. The thoroughbreds appear to have more cellulitis than any other breed. And let me tell you it's not in this presentation, it's in the lymphatic series, is that 9 out of 10 of them are put down due to colic. So
Mm.
that tells me right there, we don't know enough because the cellulitis is in between this, underneath the skin, right here, and we don't understand it. If we understood it, we would have better treatment options. It is not well understood what goes on underneath the skin before you even get to the muscles. So this is a very, very dynamic place. I'm very passionate about it. I believe, this is Teresa's opinion, that the place that we should be looking is what kind of microbes live in this space. Because if we have the right microbes, the horse would be able to manage the infection better if we understood them. Any questions? Joe? Hello, Joe? Joe joined us. Any comments on this?
No.
The other thing is, how do we know that it never goes away? 78%. Now think about this. 78% of the people say the swelling never goes away. So year after year, what are they paying? They're going in this vicious cycle that is nickel and diming them to death. They're shelling out well over anywhere between 15 to 1,200 to $1,500 the first year, and after that it accumulates. And in 3 years, you're up to a bill of $10,000 because someplace they're going to colic because they're given antibiotics to control the infection. So that's why I say we need to learn more, and that's why the purpose of computing is insight. It's not about the numbers. That's why I think this is so important, because I really think we have the potential, if we understood what happened, if we understood those microbes and how they operate and what we could do to make it better. And I think that we would have a better chance of controlling it, and we could drop costs. I've seen it. I've seen it, and it's just very exciting to see that when everybody says no, we say yes, and we can get results. All right. And this one we already discussed is which breed has been reported to experience cellulitis more than any other breed. It's definitely the thoroughbreds. And that's why, Don, I was really interested in your time that you were down in Kentucky. I don't know how much of cellulitis you saw. Can you want to comment on that?
I worked on the breeding farms and also at the sales. And the breeding farms, I worked with brood mares. I was foaling mares and worked with mares and foals. I I didn't see a lot of it, but it's different because when you're during the foaling season, sometimes they have mares coming and going because if they want to be considered a Kentucky bred, the mare has to foal in Kentucky.
Oh,
So mares were being shipped in, and then sometimes and this was on a big farm I was working where they had different different farms all joined together. So sometimes they move the mares around. But where I had said that I had seen an older thoroughbred with it was a retired horse, retired school horse at a riding barn. Um, so the mares that were, in production were younger mares. So I don't think that I saw a lot of it. And I think if I did ride with the vets, if I had a different type of job or I was riding with the vets, I'm sure I would have seen more of it. But the mares that I took care of, I didn't see that.
okay. Well, that's very interesting because a lot of, I don't know where this comes from, but I got this numerous times off of Facebook. Well, we just need to breed it. We'll breed it out of them. You don't breed
No.
cellulitis out of a horse. It's an infection. You don't breed, um, you don't breed chronic progressive limb. You cannot outbreed chronic progressive lymphedema. Why are you doing this to the horse? And I'll tell you what's very interesting. What I have observed in these draft horses and these thoroughbreds, if they have chronic progressive lymphedema, all right, and they breed them, they can do okay year one. By year two, they're starting to tank. Year three, they want nothing to do with the baby. I'm just telling you, they're exhausted because you think about this. I mean, these are big horses. I get that. But when you're dealing with chronic progressive lymphedema, the leg isn't moving as well. There's swelling there. There's a lot of discomfort. If you ever been pregnant or had children, you know how toward the end of a pregnancy, things get relatively uncomfortable just because the baby is growing so big or the foal is taking a, you're miserable. You're swollen everywhere. Your breast, your feet, it doesn't matter, your hands. It can be incredibly, uncomfortable. But people have this thing in their head, well, we'll just breed her. Well, I don't know what you're thinking here. What are you breeding? So it's just an educational really issue. Now, what I would say is this: if they got a horse a thoroughbred, a young one, and she could have easily come down with cellulitis. And let me tell you why cellulitis is a real killer. Your horse could be perfectly 100% intact at 7 a.m. By 7 p.m., they're crippled if they come down with cellulitis because that infection destroys the lymphatic tissue under here. And once it's destroyed, you can't get it back. So if a young thoroughbred, a mare that's been bred comes down with it, you can certainly control it with wraps. And I've seen it done. It can be controlled. They do that with humans all the time. So a woman has, chronic progressive lymphedema due to genetics. When she gets pregnant, they just continually wrap the leg, and they, you know what? They do fine. And I'll tell you what, these horses that have chronic progressive lymphedema and cellulitis can do remarkably well. Do not write them off. Do not. It's just that we don't understand. Again, it's the lack of insight and education. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay. So here we go. So the majority of the people that answer be part of the research, 54%, are giraffe and giraffe crosses. That's my niche. And the 38% is the thoroughbreds and the warm bloods. That is it. And then we also have the quarter horses. So if you're in quarter horse country, now a lot of quarter horses have been crossbred down the line with thoroughbreds. And you see, and maybe that's where they're picking up this genetic piece of it, where the swelling is. But I spoke to a vet from upstate New York. She's seen it. She goes, we saw it in vet school, but no one ever talked about it. We never could get a handle on it. So I'm telling you that quarter horses are definitely problematic. I don't see them like the other one. I would tell you the next one after quarter horses is probably Arabs. For some reason, they have it. Now, you don't see it in mules. A mule, if they come down with lymphedema, it's usually due to, some sort of trauma. All right. But you generally don't see it that much in mules. I have had mules, and the one that I did have, she went to Mule Day
Bishop.
up in Bishop and was coming back home, and she lived down by San Diego, and the lead line fell off and got wrapped around her mule's leg and act like a tourniquet. And then the horse lost the tissue died. That's what happened. But it wasn't anything, like a genetic predisposition or anything, because the mules they're pretty hardy. They're pretty hardy animals. So that's where that was. All right. So now which breed is this is it? We discussed that. Now I want to give you some examples of what lymphatic congestion looks like and some of the common equine disorders. You never think that they're lymphatic. So one here is we're seeing, and I don't know why, and maybe it's just becoming we're getting more out there that we're seeing people with ventral edema, which is really interesting. This photo was taken of a mare. This horse had it for several years. I don't know. She said the practitioner said she went through 5 or 6 different vets, had ultrasound, you name it. She spent the money on it, and the thing is, the horse was up in age. I think she was either 25 or 28, but her belly was swollen. So my gut, and I'm only going by my gut, told me she may have had an ovarian cyst somewhere, which caused that swelling. And when the practitioner worked on her, the only thing she would do was she would moan and stretch. And every time she stretched, I think she was releasing a lot of lymphatic fluid. But I suspected it was just me, that there was a and it was just my gut. The first thing that came into my head was an ovarian cyst. They couldn't diagnose, or they couldn't get the ultrasound there deep enough to see. That was just an opinion. I mean, I don't know what the status is. This was a couple of years ago, but we're seeing a lot more ventral edema. So that's a little bit more concerning for me for various different reasons. It could be a liver, it could be multiple things. Now, this is what traditional chronic progressive lymphedema looks like. You see the nodules, you see the red, the inflammation, and this is cellulitis. Now, on cellulitis, you generally don't see these nodules. This is where you would see it like up like on a thoroughbred. So that's what this right here. Now, remember this. Inflammation means one thing, a reduction of circulation. The lymphatic system and the circulatory system are built at the same time as when the egg and the sperm split. Within 10 to 12 days, they're already building the vessels, and the lymphatic system is right along with it, taking the debris out. So you're not going to separate anything that has inflammation, means a reduction in blood flow. So anything that impedes circulation is going to impede the lymphatic. So that's the balance that we have here. All right. So I just wanted to share another one here with you. These are various types of things that you would see out in the field. My little buddy here, Muffin, whatever she called him, he was a stud and he has got scar tissues. Well, he thought he was going to visit the ladies on the other side of the fence and introduce himself. And he got all cut up and he had all scar tissue. Chronic manual lymph drainage and the grooming technique is wonderful for any kind of scar tissue. Wonderful. Because it breaks it up because lymph can't pass scar. Another one is tremendous sinus, runny noses. You live in an area that's heavily polluted, like LA, or where there's a lot of wildfires and the air is polluted, you can rest assured that that horse is probably has a lot of lymphatic congestion in there. Another one is the tear ducts here. You see a lot of mucus coming out of the eyes. You also see generally a lot of flies around this area and around the nose also. And that is because flies are attracted to the lymph because they can't digest pure protein. It has to be broken down. That is why the flies are attracted to horses that have lymphatic disorders. Or you got to look and see where the flies are, and that's why they're always along the cannon bone area and down by the fetlock. So that's what that's one of the flies will tell you exactly where the lymphatic congestion is. And it's amazing. If you go out and do the grooming technique and you do this on a horse and they had lymphatic congestion, you see how fast those flies leave. I'm not kidding you. It's amazing. Now, the other one is a swollen sheath. Now, why is a swollen sheath? We get a lot of horses, especially in the wintertime, they're locked up if you live in an area that has a lot of ice, so on and so forth, or they can't go out. That is what they really call a gelding scar. In Germany, I was told, I've never gelded a horse, so I can't tell you an exact spot, but I was told that there's a very specific area where you geld a horse that does not interfere with the lymphatics. So if you have a horse, you'll see it between the ages of around 10 or 12. If they start stocking up, all right, in the sheath area, chances are when they were gelded, they cut through a piece of the lymphatic structure, and lymph can't pass scar. And that's what you're getting. That's why you're seeing a lot of that. It could also be horse can have a tumor there. Could be many, many reasons why that sheath is swollen, but the predominant most common thing is because the scar tissue is there and the lymph backed up. Now, the other one here is Galaxy. She had a tumor there, and she had a mast cell tumor, and it wasn't dangerous. You could see it was up by her neck, and this was hard. It was hard. So what we do is when I saw that, we started massaging it, doing cross fiber friction, and we were breaking up, and then all of a sudden it went right down. So when you have scar tissue, remember it's if and you see something's blocked, you'll feel the scar tissue. You'll feel it. So these are various types of lymphatic congestion that we see, and we don't even realize they're lymphatic. So it's just not for horses that have chronic progressive lymphedema or they've got cellulitis. Now, this one here is interesting. It's location, location, location. This is interesting. If you live in the northern upper states, like in Iowa, the Dakotas, Minnesota, what happens in the wintertime, they have more problems with chronic swelling than somebody does in the South. Why? Because it's cold up there. And what happens when you go outside and you don't have any mittens on? What happens to your hands? They get cold, right? That's the first thing you feel. Well, you've got a horse that's compromised and they don't have the circulation they should have. So it gets worse in the north. It gets better in the south because why? The heat is gone. The humidity's gone. Now you flip it. Now this time of the year, it's really it's really very trying for people who live in the deep south where where it's hot and it's humid because the body wants to get rid of the lymphatic, but there's pressure from the outside with humidity, and the body has to work twice as hard to get rid of that lymphatic fluid. So it goes into overproduction. On the West Coast, you're dealing with a lot, especially in California. A lot of wildfires are out there. It's very hot, and you will see that as well. On the East Coast, it's not as bad until you get into the North, the Carolinas. So, depending on the location where you live, could certainly determine what time during the year when is that lymphatic system is going to be more active or they're going to have a propensity to have something go wrong. And that's how you're going to look at this. So when you look at your market, you want to know where you live. How is the weather going to influence me? The barometric pressure is huge, absolutely huge. So we got a chat here. Let me see. Somebody said, how do you know if it's lymphedema or cellulitis? Great question. I'm going to go back to this. Number one, breed. All right. If the horse is a draft or a draft cross and the leg looks something like this, it's most likely going to be chronic progressive lymphedema. But I also will tell you, I've seen a lot of horses who are drafts who did not have the nodules. They have a very swollen leg and the leg is very fibrotic. But your key there is going to be, is it a draft or draft cross? That's what you're going to look at. That's going to be the first thing that you're going to look for chronic progressive lymphedema because it's designated for draft and draft crosses. Cellulitis, I see a lot of quarter horses with this, a lot. And thoroughbreds, warm bloods, trocanters, all the hunter jumper and dressage horses. This is very, very predominant. That's how, did I answer your question? The person who answered, I think it was Enlightened Equestrian.
Mm-hmm.
Did I? Okay, all right. So we got three top challenges. First of all, the reason that I get calls from all over the world, all right, is because there's not enough education. I This past year I got a call from Ghana. She was British. Her mare was, I think she was 22, 24, and she emailed me and she said she had cellulitis, but the horse wasn't doing too well. And they told me to turn around. And I said, well, that's true. The horse should walk more. Long story short, we connected on WhatsApp. And she says the horse doesn't want to move and they're making her move. And I said, stop. What do you mean the horse doesn't want to move? Well, it doesn't. So they have grooms over there in Ghana, and she had the groom attempt to walk. This horse was in pain. I said to the woman, I said, this horse is in excruciating pain. This is way out of my scope of practice. I said, I don't know who told you that, but this horse needs veterinary attention. She says, we don't have many resources here. I said, I highly recommend that you get a vet out there ASAP. I said, because this is beyond cellulitis. This is way beyond it. Long story short, she sends me a photo of an x-ray. She writes, she's got a fracture. Okay, that makes sense why the horse couldn't put a hoof down, right? She couldn't walk on it. Next thing I get, about an hour later, the horse has a bone infection. Here's the story. It ended. She never told me. I asked her how she made out and so on and so forth. And she never answered me. I would imagine with a bone infection, you're not going to beat that. And I think they probably euthanized her because of her age, the cost that it was already costing them just to get this diagnosis. But she was told by a vet to get that horse to move. And I said, I disagree. And here's why I disagree. And they weren't educated enough on cellulitis and chronic progressive lymphedema to give her the right protocol. And I'm sure, I have no doubt that that horse probably was euthanized humanely. She loved her dearly. I think she had her since she was like 13 or 14 years old, whatever. But she had her for a long, long time. Let's see what we got here. Okay, thank you. So the next thing is we don't have enough trained equine professionals right where you live. And if you're an equine professional, let me tell you, these people are in your own backyard. You just don't know they're there. And because one of the frustrating things, as Jeannie could really share with you, owners are left in the dark. Are they not, Jeannie?
Yeah, it wasn't clear what it was. So I didn't.
No, right? So, and Skibo's up in age.
Yeah, he's 23 now. I think it started when he was 21.
Yeah,
But
and yeah, well, and here's another thing. Now, in humans, as we age, we lose lymphatic tissue. I don't know if that happens in horses. We lose lymphatic tissue as we age. So, do they have a potential for that? I don't know the answer to that. It could be yes, it could be no. But it's something to think about. So, and I heard this over and over again. So many owners are just blindsided because number one, they never told them what happens with cellulitis, that it's chronic, that the horse is going to get it. It recurs over and over again. And they feel very, how do I put it? They felt they were dumped. I mean, that's a terrible word to use, but that is when I talk to the owners, it's like everybody throws their hands up. And we had an incident. Christina knows this lady. Her name is Tia, and she has a horse named Stetson. She went through 19 practitioners. Vets, horseshoers, chiropractors, body workers. She spent 4 years and a bunch of money, and nobody told her what it was, and it was a congested lymphatic system. And she spent under $300 to fix the problem, and she was in the neighborhood between $10,000 and $15,000. What would you rather spend? 300 or 10 or $15,000? So this is why I think this is so. What? Somebody said something? Oh. All right, now what we have here is the last thing is I'm asking everyone to join the equine lymphatic movement. We're on Facebook. page. What I'm going to start doing is, Jeannie, I want your story there. Maybe I'm going to take a look at the calendar and we'll talk about doing a live Facebook. You know, if you have pictures of Skibo, this is an opportunity to really, really help people why this movement is so critical. Because somebody else, you know, Jeannie may have something very similar that's happening to them, and they just don't even know that there's help out there.
Yeah. I hear it's
So,
pretty common for the parotid
oh, is it?
gland. Well, because I mentioned it to someone and they said, "Oh, my horse had the same thing."
Oh,
And,
really?
oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. But I don't do Facebook.
Oh, that's okay. Well, that's all right. But then
Okay.
don't worry about it. But but because we'll put you up on the Zoom link anyway. Don't worry about
Okay.
it. All right. So, and I would encourage everyone to do the lymphatic movement only is because this is a wonderful place for people to share both the good and the bad. I mean, you know, this is an educational thing, and that's the biggest problem that we have. So that's why I decided to do these series, and the next one will be next week, next Tuesday, on the introduction to connective tissue and why it matters. What we'll be doing is we're going to be looking at things like chronic progressive lymphedema cellulitis. What is happening under here? Why does it matter? And I want to break down two things. I want to break down laminitis is huge. Everybody can, I'm sure, especially the quarter horses, laminitis and founder. And possibly if we have time, we'll talk about sweating and um, there was I don't have time right now, but there was an article that I read that they don't have a quote an FDA treatment for horses that have androgenesis. It's the inability to sweat, and I think it's a clogged lymphatic system.
Wow.
Oh yeah, oh
That's
yeah,
that's
oh yeah,
huge. And I've heard frequently of people from the north moving down to Ocala or other parts of Florida, and the horses just can't deal with it, and they have to either move back entirely to the north or they just send the horses back.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
very bad problem there for many, many people,
And you know
many
what?
horses.
And I'm going to explain why that happens next week, Donna. So
Okay.
you want to be there. You're
Yep.
going to see the anatomy. Then you go, oh my God, it's right in the connective tissue. It's in the dermis. So what's the dermis? It's loose connective tissue. And what is that? It's all the ground substance, and it's it's all the interstitial fluid that's in there, and it's clogged. It can't move. So if you can't move, what happens? Everything backs up. So the horse can't sweat, they can't detox. So, and we've seen this over and over again with horses that have problems with sweating. And I think the majority is a clogged lymphatic system. There could be other kinds of conditions that may cause it that would impair the horse's ability to, sweat. But if we can eliminate it and peel back the onion and let's say, okay, let's try something simple first. Let's see what we get, then take the next step. So, and also the other one I'm really concerned about a lot of these horses that have Cushing's disease and they call them fat pockets. All right, you might have heard of that. Have you anyone ever heard of that?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I think a lot of these fat pockets are congested lymph because I would be a billionaire. Maybe I even can outdo what's his name? Leon Musk. Be whatever it is they call him now. If I could just do MLD and get rid of fat by doing that. But I think that for many people, horses that have like Cushing's and you think there's extra extra fat there, I think it's a congested lymphatic system. To get it out of there, are we going to fix that problem? The the Cushing's? No. Could we could the body work more efficiently? Absolutely. And that's the goal. So next week, we're going to talk about introduction to connective tissue. What are the elements? Let's take a look at some of these common disorders and see why it's so important. And then we're going to move, and I want you to use your imagination this week. You learned a lot. We shared a lot here. And I really and I hope that you've enjoyed it. Can you give me feedback if you found this useful, this information? Somebody, if you don't want to talk and you want to type it in, feel free to do so. Joe or the enlightened equestrian, Jeannie.
Yeah, I really found it. I mean, um I've been doing it occasionally, the the lymphatic massage or
The
and
grooming technique,
the
yeah.
grooming section sessions just as a, preventative.
Good for you.
And I feel like it's helped. And then I like the part where you said the fat pockets because I think because right now Skibo is at a really good weight. Whenever the vet sees him, the chiropractor he sees a lot, and then the massage person, they all write he's in a good weight, and he's a Welsh cob, so he also gets fat.
Right, right, right. But
Really.
I think
So
that
I
the
feel
fact that
like, yeah, yeah, because I feel like his body is able to metabolize better.
absolutely.
So yeah, so it doesn't just get stuck. The pancreas or pituitary is able to function better. I don't know.
Oh no, you don't absolutely. Why? When we do and in a couple of weeks we'll be doing the MLD session, you know, and what we're going to explain on the MLD piece is why it works and how it works. And when you understand how it works, you understand why it works. And we're going to talk about what exactly does manual lymph drainage do. We don't cure anything. I'm telling you right now. What we do is create space. And when we create space, then the flow of traffic can move and the horse's body has a better chance of self-correcting itself.
Mhm.
And that I think that's what you experience. But we're going to talk more about the mechanical pressure, what does it mean, and so on. So we'll be doing that. Let's see, we got another chat here.
They're driving.
Okay, let me see. Okay, let me get one new message. Okay, sorry, that's okay. They're driving. But anyway, I hope you've all enjoyed this. Joe, do you have any comments? You want to type anything into the chat? No? Okay. Donna, anything you want to add?
Yeah, you were saying how, you would.
Hello?
Is that Joe?
I don't know.
I'm the driver.
Oh,
Oh, oh, Joe's.
okay. Anything else anybody want to comment on?
I think Donna was starting.
Yeah, Donna.
Yeah, I have a quick question. So I know it varies, but like, when you were like you showed that one picture here in the center with the draft cross, um, for something like that, how many treatments does it normally take?
Like for this one?
Yes.
Okay, that's a great question. And let me tell you, this is what really blows my mind. Are you ready for this,
Yeah.
Donna?
Yeah.
These horses have been congested for years,
Yeah.
many, many years. I would tell you in 24 hours, and I'm telling you the truth, every single horse, no matter how compromised they were, improved. The key is, can the owner do it on a regular, consistent basis? When they can do it in a regular, consistent basis, I would tell you, probably maybe 6 to 8 weeks, maybe depending on the size of the horse, you would be able to get it under control. And this horse suffered for years.
You mean 6 to 8 weeks? So is that 6 to 8 treatments and then they're on a maintenance?
What it depends on it. You're gonna have if here's the this is the caveat. This is the biggie. All right. For some of them are bilateral too, Donna. I'm just telling you. So the wraps are very expensive because the cotton you have to use has to be a wool a wool or cotton base, and that's where the expense is because they start absorbing the lymphatic fluid. It's like a dirty diaper. Once the diaper gets wet, you got to throw it away. So what you do is if you wrap that horse on a consistent basis for at least 2 months, you'll see a reduction. We saw a reduction with Tom. He was the largest leg I ever worked on. It was over 42 inches in diameter. We reduced that leg in 14 hours, maybe by 20%. You could see it. So my point is that if people are consistent enough and they're willing to invest the time and the money, they can get this horse under control. They can go ride, they can go pull, they can do whatever you want them to do. It's not, don't use this as an excuse for your horses. Oh, they can't do it. They're not productive anymore. They can't do this. They can't do that. Get it under control and you see that baby go. I've seen it so many times.
And
And
then the owner,
I think that's what keeps me going.
has to keep up with
Yes.
these treatments on the horse using these wraps and everything.
Yes. Long and then what happens is many times once they get the horse under control, they will know when that leg starts to fill up right away. They'll see it. And then they can go rapid. They may go 2 or 3 days and then the start leg starts filling up. Remember, these vessels have been damaged over the years because the lymphatic fluid is toxic. It destroys the tissue. So if the tissue is destroyed, you can't get it back, sweetheart. It's done.
Yeah.
That's why cellulitis is so dangerous, is because when that infection comes, it comes like it's it's wild. In a couple of hours, you have totally that horse's leg has been totally destroyed in a matter of hours. So that is why I always say to a lot of people, if your horse has had cellulitis, I would keep a bunch of antibiotics in the house just in case. Because you know what? Some of these people who live out in the Midwest, like Montana and some of the remote areas, vets don't come. You call them to tell them you have a swollen leg. You know what one girl was told in Texas? I think it was $750 to show up.
Wow.
Mhm.
So they're not going to pay that kind of money. Because he's got to make a decision. Do I go see this horse who's got a swollen leg, or I got a mare that's having problem foaling? You know, so that's why I said if an owner's horse has come down with cellulitis, highly recommend talk to your vet. You want to keep some antibiotics. You may want to keep more than one because depending on the bacteria, most of the bacteria that's in this in cellulitis and in CPL is strep and staph.
Mhm.
It's strep and staph predominantly, and that destroys the tissue. So once the tissue is gone, there's nothing you can do. It's gone. So that's why the lake keeps filling up. It's like having on a highway system and the highway is broke. The road buckled. Are you going to go down a road that buckled or the bridge is out? You can't cross the bridge if it isn't there. You got to take a detour. So that's where that time comes in, Donna.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have a comment or question. A lot of draft horses have feathers
Yes.
and they get scratches. So I
Scra-
wonder,
yep.
scratches is like the prelude to, it's like you said, it was always there, but you don't notice it. It doesn't get to that CPL stage. But you have little hints like scratches, flies around there, the feathers.
Well, that's a great question. What's your question?
Well, I was just wondering if the feathers, I mean, because they have feathers, a lot of draft crosses, where they're more susceptible to infection, because the hair and the feathers, if they have a little scratch there, the bacteria can just go up where the feathers to the skin.
This is a really interesting question. All right. And I think it was an excellent thing. Here's my comment on that. Most of these draft horses, particularly the gypsy cobs, I have not seen to date, and I'm being honest with you, a gypsy cob that has not had CPL because they're crossbred um, with the drafts. I think there's 3 breeds of drafts that make up a gypsy cob. And that tells you all the genetics are in there for a recipe for disaster. And what happens is a lot of this here, they think it's scratches when actually it's really CPL.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, this is my answer to that. If somebody has scratches and it's a fungal infection and it goes away, that's scratches. It's a fungal thing. If you keep treating it and it doesn't go away, that's chronic progressive lymphedema. It mimics that scratches. All right. The problem you have with the draft, the mites get in underneath the feathers and you can't see them, and they start eating and tearing the skin.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do that, they cause inflammation and infection. And then that starts the whole process. Now, they also don't know what trips the CPL in a horse. That's the $1 million question is what genetic component, what causes that cell or those cells to turn this into it? They don't know that.
Well, maybe it's all the damage from, you
It's,
know, from
yeah.
previous infections and
Well, then you're dealing with scar tissue. That's another
Mhm.
issue because you now lymph don't pass scar. So it
Mhm.
gets complicated very quickly. So if you are to do a proper decongestive wrap, a decongestive wrap is not a standard wrap. A standard wrap does this. It restricts. A lymphedema decongestive wrap does this, and the hand slides, the skin slides, which would facilitate the movement of lymph. There's the difference. There's the difference. And you need a short stretch bandage. You need different equipment. It's like a carpenter. All right. A carpenter, you can have a flat tip screwdriver and a Phillips screw. You can't use a Phillips screwdriver on a flat tip, on a regular net, uh, one of those the screws. It has to be the proper tool. Same thing here. You need the proper tool to address the root cause. And the problem is they don't understand the root cause and they don't know how to manage CPL. It's not a standard wrap because standard wrap does this, my wraps do this, and it moves, and that's why it facilitates it. Any other questions? Donna, anything else?
Teresa, are you going to be on the call after you're done with this
Yeah.
formal presentation? Okay.
All right. If you want, yeah, I'll be on it. Anybody else? All right. Join me next week, and it's going to be the same link. I'll send it out anyway. All right. And I want you to do that. I'll want you to get the same link so every week you know which link it is. And I'll be sending it out emails for the rest of the week on what we're going to be working on and trying to differentiate why is this connective tissue so important and the connection to the circulatory system. So that'll give you a really great insight. All right, folks. So I'm going to end this and I'm going to stop the recording. And Donna, you can ask me anything you want. Ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
We're done.
It says, are you sure you want to stop recording?